Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous.
I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that?
I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
Welcome back, everyone. Susan, how you doing today?
Fantastic.
Good. Did you recover from Chad and JT? Everyone all okay after that one?
Oh, they were so cute.
That, ladies and gentlemen, was improvisational comedy. Those I remember Carolla used to always pound on me in the Loveline days, about improvisational techniques. You're always supposed to say not only that, but, and never say no, and always say yes, and he and I interviewed Space Ghost once, Space Ghost Coast to Coast. And he was in this crazy character the whole time. And Adam said, that is what a good improvisational actor does. They know their character. And Chad and JT know their characters. And I know them too, which is why we have a good time with them every time.
I dig them.
And in their naive approach, they really, I didn't get into this yesterday, but they reveal extraordinary truths. When they went out and handed out the free masks, they showed sort of the insanity on both sides of the excessive mask sort of wearing because people were obsequiously following them, and the people who were being ridiculous in their rejection of masks and violent. And if you ever watched that video of theirs. So we're jumping around a lot on topics. Today is no exception. We today are going to speak to Lionel. He's a talk radio veteran, trial lawyer, former prosecutor, author, pioneer podcaster, multi-platform legal and media analyst. Lionel has his own subscription video channel, free from limitations. You can go to Lionel, Lionel, make sure I get that right. Lionel, yep. LionelMedia.com. You can also follow him on Twitter at Lionel Media. And I heard him speaking about media, and I thought that'd be an interesting thing for us to get into. So, Lionel, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Here you are. So I'm sure we'll get into other topics, but I don't know where you were. It was on some other cable type platform, and you were talking about media generally, and I thought, oh, that's a guy that has a lot of interesting ideas about media, and I'm sure we can dovetail into talks about Joe Rogan and journalism and some of these other topics that are so heated.
Boring.
Well, I'm not boring, but if you think so, good. I like to hear this. But what's happening to media? Where is media going, and what is it doing to us?
Okay, first of all, frame of reference. I am 9 days older than you, so we are from a particular interesting epoch.
Interesting.
We are from the 58 Club, by the way. Some of the greatest. Everybody from Madonna, Prince, Michael Jackson, you, me. So I've been through this, and I started off in talk radio by accident at the nascent development of Rush Limbaugh, and saw what happened then. There was never been anything since Rush Limbaugh in reference to the platform then. It went from that, saw the internet just like you, and I've seen this, so I can point to various things. I can say, here is the various collective media today vis-a-vis what I've seen before. And social media changed everything to the point where I'm wondering, what would O.J. Simpson have been with social media? Social media goes into the soul, and you being an expert in addiction, it reprograms the brain and basically inspires this solipsistic, narcissistic, egomaniacal, egocentric, strange, weird, I don't know what it has changed people's lives all for the worst. So media now reflects that. It merely caters to this. And the idea of journalism, that's going to go the way of the minuet. Journalism, what is that, Grandpa? What does that mean? Don't you love when they say, Drew, fair and balanced? We give you what you need to know.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
I know.
I want your opinion. I want slanted, biased, keep me informed, because media right now is a runaway train that you have to keep stoked. And if you stop for 1 second, you lose. So keep it going, even if you're wrong, even if you're over the top, even though if you exaggerate, it doesn't matter. Just keep saying something and keep going,
Huh.
keep the metrics and the likes. And that's where we are today. It's a mosh pit of nothing.
Ugh. Sounds awful.
It is. I love it.
Okay, you like it, but it's awful. So let me kind of drill into this.
Well, don't
a
you
little
agree?
Because you put.
Don't you agree?
I'm not sure. I will certainly agree with your idea that it's about content, and continuing it going, and that the business forces afoot are working against something called journalism. That's for sure. I read a long article today. I forget even what journal it was in about this. Oh no, it was actually a Twitter thread. Isn't that weird? That's already a weird sort of adjustment in my head. It was like a 25 entrance, 25 post Twitter thread. And he was a journalist talking about what it's like to be in a newsroom today and the forces that are on people, which is essentially to create something sensational, something very social media-esque, not to be worried about the checking your sources. He talked about his history where he used to have to check 4 sources, and now if somebody checks 1, they barely even look at who that was. Usually, I have found there's sort of an extraordinary thing happening that I personally have found, which is things that really go viral are never actual reports of something that actually happened. They're always what someone said happened, which is sort of an extraordinary phenomenon. I mean, why shouldn't reality be as viral as what somebody said is reality? But for some reason, people's ability to evoke outrage or to evoke virality exceeds reality's ability to deliver that.
Well, I hope to live long enough to understand what that means. But I will tell you this much, that what we do is we basically live in a world of children. And if you want to make enough, if you want to be a journalist, Drew, you go ahead. Mm-hmm. You go ahead and you be a journalist and you write and you use your 4 sources and you will be the loneliest, the poorest person who's ever walked the earth. Go ahead and do that. If you want to,
that's right.
If you want to do this. But if you want to get into what I learned, by the way, one of the greatest influences in my life was always professional wrestling. Professional wrestling in the South, where I'm from, 60s and 70s NWA, taught me everything. Manichean, good versus evil, heel versus babyface. Always give them a show, bring them heat, never be boring, and always identify very simply, good guy, bad guy. Let me see if I can say this very, very carefully. I hope. And I may have frozen, I'm not really sure, but it is, people are stupid.
Is that the simple way of saying it?
About that?
No, he did freeze on that. You froze right there.
I froze.
Go ahead. I heard people are stupid.
People are stupid today. People are stupid. They are uneducated. They are without the ability to critically think. They have no historical perspective. They are of the belief that whatever they want reality to be, that is reality. They don't care about anything. And what I've found is that somewhere there was a niche, there were slivers of people who really care about historical perspective and politics, but they're sensible, but they're not in the majority. The people today, I'm sorry to say, are unable to think. And when I say think, that sounds rather highfalutin, but I mean it. There's no critical thinking skills. There is a.
Let me stop you. Is it? I agree with you about critical thinking, but you're suggesting something a little more than lack of critical thought. Mm-hmm. You're suggesting the lack of ability to adjust to subdominant primitive impulses that are deeper in our brain structure, where our ventral medial prefrontal cortex isn't able to stop it. It's what bleeds through and becomes what we are interested in. That's not about not just critical thought. That's sort of primitive man afoot.
Well, sometimes you can take a very, very simple thing and you can give it a very complicated and brilliant explanation and explication as you have, but it just doesn't, it misses the point of the simplicity. It's just crazy. It's just simple. It's like an itch. It's very simple concept. But I'm sure that if I were to give you the neurological bases for it, it would sound like quantum mechanics. Let me just explain something. That's us. Yeah. Let's be able to separate a lot of issues here, which is what we can't do. F. Scott Fitzgerald said that the great mind is able to handle multiply, dissimilar things simultaneously and not losing your mind. We live in a world right now where there is a force, and I'm going to give it a name just for shorthand purposes, the shadow government. We call the deep state, police state, intel state, shadow government, ruling class, whoever is running the show, whoever is creating this script that we are living for. It's not going on in Washington, and it's not left, it's not right, it's not Democrat, Republican, or liberal, conservative. Whoever these people are, they're running the show. And what they do not want you to do is to think. And you only get flack when you're over the target. So the only way you're going to know that what you're saying is correct is if you're banned, if you're shadow banned, if you're demonetized, if you're cut off. Now you're talking. So what happens is we first addict people to social media. That is, no amount of words can explain to you what that did. And I love the addiction sciences, and I really like what happens to the brain. I'm a big fan of yours and Nora Volkoff and how scanning imagery has shown how people react. And what they've done is, do you like this device? Yes. You wouldn't want to see this taken away from you, would you? No. Then watch what you say. And that is exactly and precisely what's happening. Now, when you and I grew up, we were 5 years old, roughly the time. First time I remember JFK's assassination. I was just a kid, and my mother was crying, and I was fascinated. And there was a time when we would say, well, who do you think did that? And nobody dared worry about it. It was mysterious. And if you wanted to talk about it, you could. Nobody shut you down. In fact, Mark Lane and others basically liked it. No more for that. Today, based upon this shadow government, whoever it is, in concert with this this fascistic tech world, they have basically said, if you talk about certain things, whether it's hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin, or whether masks or voting or Trump, whatever it is, if it's on our list, we will shut you down. And what it does is it paralyzes creativity, paralyzes critical thinking. It makes us incurious. It makes us like sloths and dotards, and like Biden, we just kind of sit around and we just don't want to make any waves. Now that's how we've adapted.
And that's why you think media is going into this mishigas, this nothingness, which is just everybody's. So let's go back to journalism and its original intent. I mean, originally it was just to report what happened, right? To sort of give a report of an event, correct? Now, early on in this country, there were papers that catered to one political party or the other, right? I mean, even Lincoln, during the Lincoln-Douglas debate, said he had to go back and read both sides, essentially their dictations of what he said, and they were both so different, he had to collate them, put them together, and write them out himself, because neither got it even close to right. They were just completely different renditions of his speeches. That was 1860
They would disagree,
or 1855 or something. Well, right. But the point is, this is not a new phenomenon for us to have these distorted views of the world, even in spite of the fact that the intent and the sort of stated goal is to be true and honest and to just report reality. Now, is that so? I'm just tossing out that this is, yet again another incarnation of these splits in how news is reported. Do you think that is just something to do with cognitive biases, or are these things that are no? Go ahead.
No, there are you can call them evil. There are people who do not want you to talk about certain things. Now, why
would they not want me?
Okay,
you don't know.
Example. Talk about COVID. Talk about COVID. There are people who do not, obviously did not want you to talk about therapeutics. Remember that? If you talked about therapeutics, if you talked about whatever, this was called misinformation, disinformation, and you were shut off and shut down and shut up. Now, you're going to ask, well, why? Why is it different? It's a difficult question. I don't know. We can guess. As a former prosecutor, one of the things we never cared about is why. We always cared about intent. Why does somebody want to kill somebody? Well, that might help, but why means nothing. Did you mean to do it? Why is somebody a Nazi? Why is somebody joins the Peace Corps? I don't know why. We can have fun with that all day long. But the thing is, you are not allowed to say certain things. Now, there was a while back during the Rush Limbaugh days when the predominant voice was, quote, conservative. And I rejected that as well. It was silly. It was hokum. It was Ronald Reagan, this fetishistic flag waving nonsense. It was ridiculous. But that was the predominant thing. But nobody shut down the liberal voice. They just didn't have a platform.
Mm-hmm.
They just couldn't do it. They tried their best. They just, for whatever reason, why, I don't know. Today, it's different. If you, Dr. Drew, say something, let's say what you say is contrary to the theme that is accepted, whatever it is, you name it, whether it's a political event from 9/11 to JFK to Vietnam to COVID. And if it's not liked, somebody somewhere will say, excuse me, that is not accepted. That's disinformation, misinformation, data information, whatever it is. And they will point to, now this is the best part, talk about journalism, this is brilliant, a source that they have created artificially to dispute you. Snopes, PolitiFact, Wikipedia, whatever you want to call it. And they will point to the artificially created source that disputes you, and you will be shut up. And you won't be shut down because you differ. You have given the wrong information. Now, in the history of censorship, this is different. It's not that your opinion is wrong or you're hateful or you're a white supremacist or whatever. That's also on the plate as well. But no, it's just wrong and dangerous. And what do most Americans do in particular? Nothing. Absolutely. They're ground down into this you're talking about obsequious, impuissant, feckless, atesticular, invertebrate, nothing. They have been, and you'll love this, and I believe that most of what we do is pretty much a matter of psychology, behavior. This is learned helplessness. This is the classic dog that's been shocked for so long. He just doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
He's just given up.
Mm-hmm.
And we have on and it's one of the most beautifully executed endeavors by what I call the shadow government. Why? For reasons I have no idea. Sometimes maybe just for drill. And I've never in my lifetime I've never seen anything like this. I was in talk radio when Rush started, and somebody wanted to come up with the fairness doctrine, but they didn't really go through it. The only way you could get knocked off of airways is if you use the F word or you violated some FCC words about excrement or whatever it is. By the way, here's one. There's no more shocks anymore. Do you know what shocking is? The truth. And if you dare stray from the truth, think about what Joe Rogan did. It was so nothing. It was boring. He had on a doctor, two in particular, who had different theories, different hypotheses about COVID. That was it. Talk about a snooze fest. And yet they said, we're going to teach Joe Rogan a lesson. And if you believe 1 minute that Neil Young came along on his own as, get this, a Canadian polio survivor, what the hell does that have to do with anything? If you think for 1 minute that somebody didn't recruit him, hey, Neil, what? Listen, Heart of Gold ain't doing so much. How would you like to spearhead this move to have Joe Rogan? And we sat back and I'm thinking, I can't believe what I'm seeing. This was the most boring. I still can't. Drew, remember when we were kids, the Anarchist Cookbook? It was a book that showed you how to make bombs. And they actually said, well, maybe it's worthwhile. It was dangerous then. Maybe I'm in the wrong era. Kids today born in captivity are used to this. I can't say whatever I'll give you an example very quickly. This Bob Saget story. If you think there's not a whole lot going on with that, you're not paying attention. This is from a prosecutor, and I know you as a physician know this. That case reeks and stinks to high heaven. But be careful. Don't say anything. You might say something that... So we're like this. And I'd love to talk about that as a homicide detective. Can't do that. Can't talk about 9/11. Can't talk about anything. You can't even talk about Biden's lack of cognition, this senescent dotard. No. So what are we talking about?
Let's talk about
Nothing.
Bob for a second. Let's talk about. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about. It's interesting. All right. Yeah, a bunch of things to talk about. Let's just do Bob Saget since it's top of mind. In his autopsy report, he had a very serious cardiac issue, reported as cardiomegaly, which is a feature of cardiomyopathy, and it's associated with rhythm disturbances and fainting, and probably why he fell down. And there have been now a rash of people falling down. I don't know if you've seen all the reports, all the videos of people having fainting episodes,
Passing out.
syncope. It's
falling down.
syncope.
You think he fell? You think that's falling down? Did you see what happened to his skull?
Well,
that's some
I can show you a video. I can show you a video
Flat on his back.
I can show you a video right now of a friend of mine who had the exact same fall, the exact same circumstance, and fractured her skull in the exact same place. Do you have that video handy, Caleb?
I'm looking for
Heather's video. She's a stand-up comedian, and there have been multiple other episodes much like this. And the fact that he had something is going on. So I don't know. Why does a man a guy this age should not have cardiomegaly? Should not. You get that a couple of ways: virus, myocarditis, a prolonged hypertension, which he didn't have, valvular heart disease, which he didn't have, intrinsic heart disease, severe, which he didn't have. Why is he having cardiomyopathy? What is going on here? What happened to this guy?
What about the reports
Why is Heather,
of his... I'm sorry.
I'm going to show you the exact same incident in video right now. A comedian friend of mine, and my fear is
3 weeks apart.
It's either COVID related or vaccine related or something related.
No,
she
thank God.
went immediately to the ICU. She was public event, and she was taken right to the ICU.
So what you're saying is, let me ask you this. If you were a homicide detective right now, let's just assume this, and your entire crew here was, and you would look at this based upon also the amount of trauma to the skull itself from a variety, you would sit there and you would say, you know what, no reason to follow up on this. This happened before. I've got a video of a comedian who fell down and nothing to worry about here. Would you honestly say that?
Yeah, I would say... I would say he definitely did not fall back and hit the bedboard. That definitely did not happen. There's absolutely categorically
and then crawling.
No
Could there be foul play?
Could there be foul play? I mean, yes, if there were some evidence of foul play, but the evidence the evidence is he has cardiomyopathy. Why does he have cardiomyopathy? Was what I want to know. That's the foul play.
Do you know there was a case recently? See, I'm saying. I don't want to do the old Occam's razor business. I want to talk about the, you hear hoofbeats and you hear the zebra and all that. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
But there was there was a while back, there was a guy named Epstein who had all kinds of evidence and people who said, including the attorney general, he died of suicide. And that is complete merde. Now, what I'm saying is I can sense a little bit of perhaps astute trepidation on your part, being a professional, being a person of renown, to be very careful, as am I. But as soon as we get done with this and we walk around to, let's say, taverns or friend people getting together, nobody is sitting around talking like we are. There is a sensibility that says, I want this thing explored. There's something about this that doesn't make any sense. People are also asking, why does a family... Bob, that's all I'm saying.
Either, I agree with you that there's something there. I'm hoping it's not something about some anatomical something that the family fears would humiliate Bob in his honor. They would not want that exposed, or something he had issues. I don't know, but I agree that there's something up here. In terms of foul play, with Epstein, here's Heather's video. Well, I'll show you the video in just a second, but okay, well, I'll show it to you again. Let's play it one more time.
Oh, nice.
She's now skull fracture, subdural hematoma, into the ICU.
Now, Drew,
Never
I'm
fainted
not.
before.
Now, this may
Wasn't
not
drinking.
This may shock you, but I've heard of people passing out before. That is true. Yes, you.
I understand, but but is one thing when you pass out and your hands go down in front of your face.
Sure. Oh, yes.
And you sort of that was no blood pressure all of a sudden. That was either POTS or a cardiac event or something that a middle-aged woman should not have. So something is going on. Something is afoot. This all needs explanation. Yeah.
If that's exactly what happened. If you don't, and again, I don't know anything about this, but if I'm the prosecutor or if I'm the lawyer for the family, if they're interested, I'm going to make sure we don't have some incompetent rube who's the ME from a small town. We don't have somebody who doesn't know how to read a crime scene. We don't have other factors that may be. I'm just saying. But do you hear this? I'm trying to balance the two things. Balance an incredible perfervid excitement over getting to the truth, but not rushing off. I'm not making up facts. I don't know anything about the man. I'm just saying.
And again, I understand that you feel your instincts or your spidey senses are up, and so are mine. But with Epstein, we had evidence: a camera shut off, guys claiming to be asleep, a fractured hyoid bone, all kinds of pieces of evidence. In Bob's case, we have one piece of evidence: myocardopathy or cardiomyocyte.
Wait a minute.
That's like, whoa, where did that come from? That's not from foul play.
One of my great friends I've known for about 30 years now is Dr. Michael Baden. What Michael Baden did, he was hired by the family. Not only did he have the fractured hyoid and the thyroid cartilage and petechial hemorrhaging and this ligature.
We're talking about Epstein now.
This is Epstein, yes. And not only that, nothing could have possibly been. You could not do this with this flimsy whatever it was. Not to mention, he was in a jail cell with a guy who was facing death row, and nobody knows where he is right now. And the whole country, including Drew, the attorney general, he said, it's a suicide to me. Now listen, I don't know about you, but maybe it's me. Maybe there's something wrong with me. But I have never, ever heard anybody from the government, I think, ever give me the straight story about anything. It's either understated, overstated, or misses the point altogether. So, there's that Kennedy.
I want to get back to that.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to get back to that because that's I think what's interesting here, the distortions, and interestingly, just before we came on this stream, by the way, you in the media discussion, I saw you on a previous platform. You were saying streaming video is the future. You were screaming all about streaming.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what caught my attention. You still feel like it's really just people like you and me putting a camera up and having conversations and people dropping in.
No, wait. Oh, stop. Wait. No, this is first. Can I give you something very quickly? It's my macaroni and cheese theory. It's very simple.
Okay.
Macaroni and cheese, people love it. Kids love it. Why? I don't know why. It's macaroni, it's cheese. You put it together and people go crazy. Sometimes things just work. And sometimes you will find the intimacy. Let me tell you what's dead. The Ted Baxter set. Good morning, Dave. Good morning. Let's go to news, traffic, and weather. Wait a minute. This is dead. This is Dave Garroway. This is 70 years old. It's moribund. It's over. And what happens is you will get people by virtue of the intimacy, the relaxed nature of this. You've seen it, Drew, and we've all seen people who are fantastic. And there is something about them, the way they relate to the camera, the way they speak. Some people couldn't lure me out of a burning building. But the thing is, this is not the future. This is now. This model is dead. Did you see last week when you had Whoopi Goldberg, when they said, Whoopi Goldberg, to take 2 weeks off? They want her out of there. They're not going to support that anymore. Nobody's watching this crap anymore. It's done. It's finished. The whole thing with Chris Cuomo, get rid of him. Let me write him off of the books. Whoever signed him for this? What is this? Do you know that right now, I'm not sure where you are, I guess you're in LA or something. You probably have a guy who comes on at 6 o'clock doing the weather. What prehistoric, Precambrian areas? Who waits for 6 o'clock to say, Jesus, if only I could find out if it's going to rain? They're stuck in this rosin, and and the people who are holding them back are the executives who are hanging on by a thread. You're going to be having right now people with a phone going out to check. Remember the Northern California fires? Some of the best reporting I ever saw was a guy with an iPhone who just went on and said, look at this. So there's nothing, the only thing that kept this from happening was the technology. This is the most pure form of speaking and let me tell you something. You better make sure that we don't think everybody can do this, because this reminds me of the 80s when everybody thought they could be a comedian. And you saw one jerk after another standing in front of a brick wall at ha-has and chuckles and it was awful. We're going to go through a sifting period here, and people are going to find out really who's good and who's not.
And don't you feel like Rogan is part of that evolution?
I'm trying to, Michael Fedler here. And Joe.
Oh, you're reading what's on the side? Let's see.
Yes.
There's always a confirmation bias, though humans tend to see patterns that are merely coincidental. Okay,
nothing
that's
like
true.
Small print.
It's even harder when there's an actual verify. Oh, well.
Oh
well, and they love you. So anyway, so they're just people commenting alongside of us. This is.
I thought Michael Fedler was some philosopher from the.
No. He's from crowd sharing, from our chat.
Okay, but Bunny Bubs.
I lost my train of thought.
Got all their movies. No, you weren't. It was derailed.
Yeah, I was derailed. I was asking about. So I said Rogan. Isn't Rogan part of this evolution? Isn't this what you're talking about?
Oh,
that he doesn't have the. Yeah.
First of all, he was their worst nightmare. I am such a fan of his because of, and let me be honest with you. Listen to me. I should go blind if I'm lying. I don't think I've heard 5 minutes of him or Rush or any. I don't listen to any of these people, but I hear, the YouTube section. He talked about this one or that one, and he's very, very good. This is a guy who basically was locker room. I talk to young men in particular who love him, and he does, and he gives them somebody told me Joe Rogan gives me a positive message about whatever. Some things I don't get. You know who I don't get? Jordan Peterson. I don't get what this guy's about, but they love him. When he talks about lobsters and standing up straight, I don't get it. Doesn't matter. I don't get golf or fishing either. But he all of a sudden worked. And as soon as he made this big contract with Spotify, by the way, Drew, do you believe that for a second? Come on, $200 million? Please, stop it. What is this, a cute Krugerrands or some kind of weird crypto? Please, stop it. Anyway, and as soon as I knew it, I said, guess what? Hope I can say this. You just put up your balls as collateral. They're going to cut them right off. They're going to want to destroy you. Drew, you've been in the business long enough, especially when it comes to radio. They hire you, and what happens? Some numbnuts program director wants to cut you down to size and say, we don't like that anymore. Change the tone. Don't play so much music. Do this. It's since day one. And they were going to teach Rogan a lesson. How dare you think you're going to come in? And by the way, these lily-livered, mincing little pusillanimous snowflake people who work in the office who took up a collection. We don't like Joe and his conspiracy theories. This is when I knew you're doomed, pal. You're doomed. Why doesn't he just do it on his own and just cut these people out? Because this is tyranny by committee.
He could. That's why he's not scared of this. He certainly could. But it's interesting. I mean, he just talks to people that interest him, right? You have to keep his interest for 3 hours as well as other people. Yeah. And he talks to conspiracy theorists. He talks to alien predictors. He talks to geophysicists who aren't academic. He talks to people from Area 51 just because he goes, a lot of his podcast is going, wow, I never thought of that. How interesting. That's what he's doing.
Wait a minute.
Finding stuff that interests him.
A couple of things. Well, first of all, I hope so. What if it didn't? Did you ever see Larry King? Most of the time, Larry King talked to people. He didn't even know who they were. Is this Larry King's fantastic?
I know.
Larry King, today we're talking to Jesus Christ. Is it Jesus or Jesus? Go ahead. How are we doing here? Okay. All right, Scranton, you're on with Jesus Christ.
Sometimes I think Drew is like that too.
Larry King could have reversed the teen pregnancy rate by just describing the sex act, and the man becomes tumescent. Forget it. Okay.
You know what, though, Lionel, I'll tell you something. I got to one thing. I mean, in Larry's offense, I loved him dearly. I sat in for him a couple times, and people accused him of being unprepared. I got his material and the way he produces it. He would really have a lot of material in front of him that he didn't read it from. So it seemed
stop.
He did.
Stop. Drew, they gave him papers,
because
and he was like this. He always said, I don't read the book. Well, that wouldn't make sense. Why don't you read it? Well, then I'll know what he's talking about. Listen, I met Larry King. By the way, Larry King, bless his heart, but I think he died in 1983 and nobody told him. Listen, but Drew, during our days when we were young, 9 o'clock at night, Larry King was it. So during his day, he was it. He was the Rudy Valley. He was the victimone of his time. He was the Joseph Federer of his time.
Yeah, he was the place. He was the place to go. Yeah.
A couple of things about Joe Rogan. You know where he really just left me completely is when he gave that stupid, and Joe, I hope you're listening, that stupid hostage video. Hi, everybody. Hi, guys. And what's with this hi, guys? Every show, from making bread to
when he apologized. You mean when he...
Nobody...
Yeah,
no, hey,
his apology video.
But it's always hey guys.
Well, he opens every show with hello friends. That's how he opens every show. So it was just sort of a greet. It's like aloha. It's like aloha. Come on now,
Drew. I've been in the business. Yeah. I know Kawabunga. I know. I hear you.
I hear you.
So he starts off with his pusillanimous business, but hey, sometimes I make a mistake. He should have looked the camera. It was a hostage video. He should have looked the camera in the eye and said, "Let me tell you something, Mr. Eck, who hired me. If you don't like what I'm doing, fire me." Now, who's his audience? MMA, Ultimate Fighting. He'll talk about six hours on how to kick somebody in the balls. So this is the type of mentality of the people he's talking to. Testicular compression, all right? And Muay Thai and this and that. So what does he do? What does Mr. Tough Guy do? He comes out with his apologia. I try and I make mistakes. How can you make a mistake by putting 2 doctors on? He lost me right there because he got scared. And he should have realized either you fire me, and if you expect me to believe that Neil Young is going to hold me hostage, and who else?
I know.
What's the matter? Bay City Rollers? Maybe that's it. How about come on? And then Nils Lofgren, that was the funniest. Because people are saying, Nils Lofgren. Wasn't that Phyllis's husband on Mary Tyler Moore? Who the hell's Nils? So he was okay, but guess what? Drew, one thing quickly. The rate of amnesia in this country, he's already forgotten.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody even, it's like whatever happened to Joe Rogan? Oh yeah, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, they've already gone on to something else. That's the sort of extraordinary thing. It's like a marauding mob, just pillaging and raping and just moving on. What's going on today? But let's take a quick sidebar. And I want to tell a radio story because I know you're a radio guy, and you triggered my radio sensibilities when you talked about radio administrators coming in and telling you how to do your job, which is very common. Or the even more common thing, or the more common thing is, Lionel, we're changing formats today. We're going from talk radio to ranchero music. Sorry, it's starting at 2 p.m.
Different direction.
Yeah, we're going a different direction. But I got to tell you a story that this is the best radio story I know of. And Susan, I don't know if I've even told you the story. Adam Carolla had a morning show on the radio for several years. It was syndicated. And he had, of course, an administrator overseeing him. And Adam would call in favors from his friends. He'd have friends come in and do segments for him. And he had three guys come in who were up-and-coming comedians who would come in every week and do little segments for him. And Adam, being a comedian, said, these guys are great. This is funny. This is great radio. Of course, he'd been on radio for a long time. He's called into the administrator and goes, look, the administration goes, these guys that come in every week, I don't know why you have them here. They're not funny. They're not good radio. The first guy, he brings in clips of like reality shows and stuff. This guy, Joel McHale, he will never amount to anything. Joel McHale, out. The next guy, he is not funny. He is just weird. You may have heard his name. It's Zach Galifianakis. Zach, out. Mm-hmm. These guys were coming in for free to donate to his radio show. Third guy, he goes, is radio death. He's not funny. Susan, you may have heard his name, Louis C.K. These were the three guys that were coming in and donating their time for his guy's radio program, and he kicked them all out because they weren't funny.
I love the way you say radio administration. Those who can do, those who can't are program directors. They're the worst. I got my start.
Not all of them.
I got my
Not all of them.
Excuse me. All of them. Okay, that's what you know what I think. That's what I think about the whole group. By the way, this is a talent. I'm a manualist, which I didn't put down on my list, and I can do this without hands. And it's dangerous.
Well done. That's talent.
So I can tell you
into a blue mic,
I can prove your. Pardon me.
Go ahead. She likes your microphone.
Into a blue mic, by the way. One of our sponsors.
We're a big blue mic family here.
Or it's a marital aid. But when I first, how I got started, because this is, I when we were kids, we always would do prank phone calls. I did prank phone calls all the time. Well, when I was, I guess, I don't know when, I noticed there was a thing called talk radio. And I used to call talk radio stations all the time. Oh, blue. I love it. A Yeti. It's a blue Yeti. Wear a long coat. Nobody
That's what it is.
So anyway,
there you go.
So I would have 3 rules. Number 1, be the first caller. Number 2, never talk about the subject. And number 3, when at all possible, insult the host family. So I would pick the most benign, ridiculous shows that were not controversial in the least. One guy was a guy, he did television repair. So I would call up.
Yeah.
First call. And I'd say, let me tell you something. I hate you. You don't know what you're doing. Anyway, he would lose his mind and talk about me for the next subject. I would then use different voices and I would do this and that. Make a long story short, somebody said, would you like to come on and do this? Now, this was in radio when we had fun, when you could do things. My topics were, instead of having to, by the way, comics never work on the radio. Sorry, it's true. But I asked the topic one time, what's the worst thing you've ever smelled? And for 3 hours, it was the worst. It was the most hideous, and it wasn't disgusting. And somebody said, this is radio. I said, exactly. This is a program director, theater of the mind. Yeah, but they can't smell. They go, no. Just listen to them. People, I was on 9 to noon before lunch. People were emetic in the hallways. And it was just people calling up and saying, I don't know much about Ukraine, but I did smell a rotten seal one time or whatever it was. Little by little, bit by bit, radio was fun and it was exciting and you could do different things. I went from Tampa to WABC in New York where I thought, well, this is really going to be wild. Not at all. Because the great radio today is local, small markets where they just say, go and do what you want to do. And that is done. It's finished. There's no, I don't know what the word is. It's all this, but
not
you mentioned before,
not inspired anymore. Well, hold on. We're going to stop. So we're going to stop. We're going to go to Rogan. We're going to talk. I got to take a little break and run some ads. It's just a 2-minute break.
I understand exactly. Believe me.
Yes, something you said. Is that you invented what Richard and Sal do on the Stern Show when they call Swap Shop. I don't know if you've heard that bit, but they call in this.
Never.
It's an internet radio show called Swap Shop, and Richard and Sal call in and make fun of them, and they go crazy. They go nuts. So what you invented is still being done on Sirius FM, for what it's worth. Take a little break. We'll be back to talk a little Rogan after this. Since the beginning of the pandemic, nearly 1 in 5 Americans has reported consuming an unhealthy amount of alcohol. Could be you, but only 10% of them are actually getting the help they need. Reframe is a neuroscience-based smartphone app that helps users cut back or quit drinking alcohol altogether. Using evidence-based tools, techniques, and content, Reframe guides users through a personalized program to help them reach their goals. Comprised of daily tasks, a comprehensive toolkit, a community forum, and accountability guides, Reframe is a modern, accessible, and affordable resource that can help anyone looking to reevaluate their relationship with alcohol. Reframe is backed by Harvard University and Emory University Schools of Medicine, and it is ranked the #1 alcohol reduction smartphone app worldwide with over 350,000 downloads. With Reframe, there's no stigma, just science, no labels, just support. To learn more, go to joinreframeapp.com/Dr. Drew. Use the code Dr. Drew for 25% off your first month or your annual subscription. That's at joinreframeapp.com/Dr. Drew. Let's talk about our friends at Hydralyte. I can't say enough about Hydralyte. You hear me talk about them all the time. It gets me through workouts and medical procedures and colonoscopies and COVID. It absolutely contributed to my recovery from COVID. Hydration is key to feeling healthy, and there's never been a time when that could be more important. We're in the height of cold flu season. Every headache has got you testing for COVID. Staying hydrated can keep the questionable symptoms at bay, and there's nothing better than Hydralyte to get it done. Taking their hydration formula one step further, now there is Hydralyte Plus Immunity. It starts with their fast-absorbing electrolytes and adds a host of great ingredients. Plus, each single-serve, easy-pour drink mix contains 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C and 300 milligrams of elderberry extract. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity comes in convenient, easy pour powder sticks that rapidly dissolve in water to make a great tasting drink that has a 75% less sugar than your typical sports drink. It uses all natural flavors. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, non-GMO, and even vegan. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity is also now available in ready-to-drink bottles at the Walmart next to the pharmacy, or as always, you can find it by visiting hydrolyte.com/Dr. Drew. That is HYDRALYTE.com/Dr. Drew. And be sure to use that code Dr. Drew 25 at checkout for a special discount. Lionel Media,
Very good.
LionelMedia.com, at Lionel Media. Thank you, Lionel. I interrupted you. You wanted to say something about Joe Rogan. You said you were going into what your thoughts were about him in spite of his...
I completely forgot about it. I was into the hydration.
Okay, I'll get you back in. I'll get you reframe. I'll get you back into the stream. Pusillanimity?
Yes.
Is that a word? You were I'm of the school. Straighten me out. I'm of the school that if you made a mistake, I have no problem apologizing for mistakes.
He didn't make a
owning
mistake.
the mistakes.
Listen.
Well,
Drew,
he
stop.
hit some N-word stuff. He had some N-word stuff that was not good.
Oh, stop!
And
Wait!
he had some-
Wait! Hold on. First of all, I know your
Yeah.
MO. Okay, let me explain to you. You're a nice guy, and you're not.
What's my MO?
That's who you are. And by the way, forgive me.
I'm
maybe it's
not.
the
I
coffee.
think it's bullshit.
My wife's not. I married somebody who's not nice.
I don't. I agree with you. I think
so
it
she's
Drew's
very
just being
Well, let me tell you
PC,
something.
You know,
It's this mealy mouth stuff. You got to take it ground. Listen, the only thing in the middle of the road is a yellow line and a dead skunk. I think Phil Crane said that best. Let's talk. He didn't make a mistake when he said about the COVID thing. Now, first of all, let me explain this business about the N word. I am so sick and tired of the N word. And to think that people are so monumentally unimaginative that somehow by saying the N word, I've sanitized a word that, and I don't want to say it, I never did use it. Just like the word like is used far too much in sentences. But when you have Snoop Dogg, who, by the way, highlighted or headlined or whatever the Super Bowl, which they should call it the CTE Bowl, because half of these guys are going to be drooling into their oatmeal one day with this tau proteins. And here's Tom Brady. How do you feel, Tom, after 3,000 concussions? You've got this man who's made a fortune, not only using the N-word in every conceivable...
Yeah, but it really is. I've looked into this carefully, and my black friends and people, it really shouldn't come out of a white person. It shouldn't come out of somebody's mouth. It just shouldn't.
No, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He's a comedian, and did you hear the context? He was using it to explain it. First and foremost, when you have to go back and we care more about what Joe Rogan said 20 years ago, and nobody cares about the Epstein Black Book, nobody cares about Hillary Clinton, nobody cares about the lies. It's this stupid, it's a no-brainer. I understand it. Nobody's defending using the N-word. But look, either we use it or don't use it, and I'm just tired. It's a nothing concept. And what he should have said is look in the camera and say, I said this. Now, do you want to fire me, shoot me, kill me, execute me? What? Eviscerate me, imprison me? Make up your mind. That's what I said. Get over it. I swear to you, people would applaud. It was somebody who actually said.
I don't think so.
Now, if you call somebody,
I really don't think so.
Did you hear Drew? Did you hear the context of what he was saying? I'm not defending the N-word.
No, I know. I get it. I get it. He was reading
What is he
something
gonna
and
do?
all this stuff.
I'm
I get it.
sorry. I didn't know what I was saying. You said it. Live with it. Move on. Enough with this. This pretend. Do you think for one moment Joe Rogan went home and said, I can't believe I said that. I can't. No, he got caught. He had to say something. Nobody cares about this.
Well,
who's saying this? It's a non-issue. And there's a lot of uptight white people who sit there and they've got to act more offended than anybody else. Look, I'm not saying that. Nobody's saying it, but what they did was they did it after the COVID thing didn't bring them down. They never found these initially. It was because the COVID argument, they couldn't destroy them with that, so they went and dug up old N words.
I get it, and there was a time where there was not as much clarity on all this, but okay. I want to go back to the issue of closing people down, because we were talking a lot about that 45 minutes ago, and it seems like well before COVID we had adopted this appetite for shutting people down, or for having sort of a canon of acceptable, even scientific ideas. And if you stepped outside of certain ideas, you had to be silenced, destroyed. I for instance, remember during the Me Too movement, I was saying, look, we and it was a lot of talk about, what were they calling it then? They were calling it toxic masculinity on college campuses. And I said, look, you want to find but hold on. But I said, I'm a physician. I want to look at the health issues. And if you look at every adverse health outcome on a college campus, you find alcohol, whether it's a fight or a fall or an unwanted sexual contact or an STD or a pregnancy, you name it, any adverse health outcome, you always find alcohol. I had to be silenced for that.
Why?
For that. That was that. Because it misses the point. It misses the point. No, it misses the point.
How does it miss
the real
the
problem
point?
is the toxic masculinity. I wasn't blaming toxic masculinity. I was including it in my discussion. Anyway, that's just an example. I had many examples like this.
Let me tell you something. This is a modern day. We all have these wonderful little quivers, and in our quiver we have the new phrases that we use. And all of a sudden, I remember when trigger points and there were microaggressions, and I cannot possibly follow any of the permutation, the transmutational gender and cis and all that. I don't even know what that means. I gave up on that a long time ago. Let me give you the bottom line on this. There is a word for it, and I can't say it's a family show, but in Spanish we say caca del toro. It's absolute nonsense. We have had it. Let me explain something to everybody watching. If you don't like Drew, turn him off. If you find what he's just saying is disgusting, turn him off. Go someplace else. You know what I find really disgusting? Absolute blatant nescience and ignorance. That's what I can't stand. So you know what I do?
I know you. Yeah.
That's simple.
And you also don't like you don't like middle ground, and I do. Like you said.
I can see that
yellow lines and dead stunts. I do, and I'll tell you, Abraham Lincoln. That was his great genius, was finding a middle ground in unclear circumstances, or at least finding principles in unclear circumstances. And so I know you're not a fan of it. I know you're not a fan, but I am.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Wait a minute. Stop for a second. Stop for a second. There are sometimes, by the way, did you know that Abraham Lincoln used to walk 5 miles every day to school, to and from? But they always leave out one thing. He was always late. There was an old comedian said that, and I wish I could find out. I think it's one of the funniest lines ever. Would you stop this business about, I want to go to a doctor and say, Doc, am I pregnant? Well, not me, but, well, I don't know. What do you mean? Doc, is he dead? Is it cancer? Well, sometimes we love certainty. We love it. Now, listen, I love the nuance.
That's true.
I love a little bit of this. I understand this. But Drew, let me explain something to you. This is a dirty, cruel world, and we are being led by people. I don't know where they're from. I think we share the same DNA. I'm not sure. But I am being told now, by virtue of the shadow government, I think, that a man, as an example, a 6'3", 200-pound man, by virtue of some, psychosocial transmogrifications, some transitional emotional soul change, is now going to compete against some 4-foot-tall little girl named Morgan. And I'm supposed to buy this. And if I say, now, wait a minute, I don't think I'm a transphobic. Well, you know what I say to that? If the Republicans or anybody want to win any election, all you have to do is say this. Do you think a grown man should be able to wrestle your daughter in a school outing? No, thank you. Vote for me. Did you ever think in your lifetime you would ever see this? Now remember, where we're from, Drew, we've seen it all. We have the sexual revolution, the summer of love, and all this stuff. Did you ever think we would actually have where the president, did you see who Biden picked? This non-binary kink for getting in charge of nuclear waste? Did you see it? I can't write this. Tell me you saw this. I'm thinking to myself, this is the Onion. This is Babylon Bee. We live in a world right now where people need certainty. And let me just say something. This N-word business, I've got to say this again. This is not an issue. Nobody. I was born in the South.
Not for old white guys born in 1958.
Here you go. You got to say about the old white guys. I was born in
it's true, though.
In the deep South. I never heard the N-word until I came to New York, and I heard it not from white people. Now, I don't know where this N-word thing is. I don't know where these white supremacists are. And I've got one thing to say, too. Let's assume, Drew, that you're a white supremacist. Fine. Knock yourself out. Or a black supremacist. Since when does that matter? I don't care. Why are we pretending? The thing is that if I can get more upset than you are, then in my particular, maybe in my LA, West Coast, wherever you live with your friends, maybe they like me. Maybe I've got more cachet. Look at him. He's going crazy over Joe Rogan saying something 20 years ago that nobody remembers hearing. Now, if that means something, if that has some currency in your group, fine. For me, with all the stuff that's going on in the world today, that is the least of our problems. That doesn't even matter.
Well, I mean, when you get down to it, right? That is the core problem right now, which is everyone is so preoccupied with language and with and by the way, squashing ideas. That's the other thing. The language police is what you and I had to deal with back in the 80s and 90s on the radio. And that was perpetrated by the right. And now we have the idea police being perpetrated by the left who use cancellation.
Let me give you an idea. Can I?
I'm
sorry.
I forget where you've befuddled me a little bit on some of these topics.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's as an attorney, you'd like me on the stand, muttering to myself.
But but Drew, stop. This is the way people speak. When you go and have a beer with somebody, you don't sit there with a list of Joe, we're going to be talking about a few things. Let me start with your
yeah. No, of course.
No, of course. We're just confabulating. I dig it.
Yes.
But I want to ask you something about. Sorry.
Go ahead. About what? Ask me something about.
It's not the thought police that bothers me. It's the thought vigilantes. Because what happens is it's not the government that's telling us. It's the people that they get. These subsidiary, this torch and pitchfork crowd that comes after me because I said something that's. I cannot. I don't even know where to start with this one. It started for me. I guarantee you. I know nobody wants to say this because this is ancient history. But I was here in New York on that Tuesday on 9/11. I was here. I saw everything. And I saw stuff that I still don't understand. Never say anything about that. Never question anything. This is the official story. Don't veer from it. We don't want to hear it. Yeah, but I was here. We don't want to hear that. Okay, fine. I've never heard anything like it. I want to know the truth. The more salacious, the better. Something that I didn't know. I like facts that nobody ever brought up before. Let me throw one at you right now. We have a big problem in this country, and that's with children who were subject to sexual predation all over the world, institutional, online.
Crazy.
Okay. Now, let me explain to you. One of these days, somebody's going to come up with, if they haven't already, they're going to create a little doll that is so lifelike with skin that mimics rubescence and rubefaction and blushing and horripilation and goosebumps. And this doll will be powered by artificial intelligence, not a robot, and it will learn you. And it will look like an infant or look like whatever it was. And they're going to sell it. Now, somebody the other day said, well, you can't sell that. I said, why? Because that's an infant and somebody could have sex with a doll? Yes, but they think it's something. I said, wait a minute. Are you telling me you want to arrest somebody for what they think? Now think about that. People say, well, you know, this is going to. We have lost all appreciation because when you want to use an example of what thought police is, you've got to go to an extreme example. You can think and write anything you want. And in my world, you're not going to like this, Drew, but if you want to go on TV or radio and you want to drop the N-bomb or the F-bomb or any bomb, let's have some warnings. Go ahead. It's a thought. It's a word. And I hope you'd use it with such frequency that we get bored with it. But I am so afraid of how we're losing the ability to just think crazy stuff and to hold, I guess, sacrosanct the First Amendment.
But you opened with that, you know, you have to be super simple because people are dumb. And super clear, good guys, bad guys, World Wrestling Federation, etc. You're now talking about ideas that are, you know, a little lofty. How do we reconcile these 2 points of view?
Simple, by explaining it to people very simply, very, very simply. Let me ask you something, Drew. What do you wish you didn't know? Don't tell us. But can you think of anything you wish you didn't know? I can't. Now, I'm not saying something that we experience, the death of a pet or something like that. But I mean, is there any fact? Is there any reality? Any horrible aspect of life? Any disgusting, vile thing that humans have ever done that you're worse off for knowing? No.
Yeah.
The more I know, the better I am. So bring it on. That's not the world we live in today. I want people to get to the bottom. If they don't like the Bob Saget story, tell me what you think. You might be wrong, but I don't want to hold anybody back. And if you don't like it, change the channel. That's simple.
All right. I think I have a call here. Let me see if I can get this up. This is
I like that
Dan.
certitude. I think.
Well, it's sometimes I click on this thing and nobody shows up. So we'll see. Dan, what's going on? Hi, Dan. You're hold on a second. We got a technical.
Are you plugged in?
I am plugged in. Maybe not. Let's see.
It's on your phone.
Yeah, it's plugged in.
Can you hear me okay?
I hear you faintly. Hold on. Try. Well, you're way off in the distance.
How about now, Doc?
It's on your end.
On my end or on his end?
I understand Dan clearly. The answer is Dan is Pythagorean theorem.
Where do you want to just try and see if I can hear you? I'll repeat it.
Okay. How about now?
I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
His earbud must be
I
on
was hoping
somewhere.
to go back to the Joe Rogan topic. And I think everyone knows that he's not a racist. I mean, nobody cites the fact that he's had. I'd be curious what the statistics were on how many black people or people of color that he has brought on his show and interviewed, taken pictures with, and supported and promoted. But nobody ever points to that. They're pointing to two out of context.
Okay, Dan, because you're so faint, I'm gonna repeat what you said. Is that essentially Joe has a lot of black friends and supports a lot of black fighters and things, and some of them have come to his aid. Dan, they have very one Israeli guy like really clearly helped him out, and I like people doing, looking into stuff. You like people having all the ideas they can possibly get in their head, and I'm of the same mindset. But I'm going to tell you, do your homework on not the history of the word, but how the word falls on the ears of your black friends and colleagues. Just interview them, ask them about it, and they will tell you. They'll be very clear about it.
May I clarify something?
But I just want to say, if you care about your friends and peers, they will tell you that it does not. It's not something they appreciate,
Drew,
and I would think you just want to be on board with that. But go ahead.
Drew, you're going to get the award from whoever is going to give you the award for absolutely pouring your heart out to say, and I just want you to know that as a white man, okay. Of course you're right about that. Look, let me give you an example to show you where I'm on your page. I am from the South, Florida. Now, I know people who live and they have this thing about the South and Dixie, and they have the stars and bars, It's not the Confederate flag. It's the war flag. Okay, fine. They have absolutely no interest whatsoever in recreating or in abrogating the 13th Amendment or to go back to slavery. And I've told them, I said, listen, you know and I know that when you see this, you think something, and I get that, and I know what you're saying. But there are other people who do not feel like that. And I must defer to people who, when they see that stars and bars, they think of, this is not good. This is a terrible time of our history. Now, what do? Do I say, listen, you don't understand history from my perspective? Or do I, as a human being, say, you know what? I'm going to give you this one. The flag doesn't mean that much to me. I'm going to make a concession. I got it. It's one of those things. Fine. I'm all for that. But because somebody doesn't hold that opinion, or because I can go back and find somebody, let's say, evincing. Have you ever heard Shelby Foote when he was on with the CBS?
Yeah.
This guy did everything, but I think he was still fighting the Confederate. But that's his opinion. That's all. That's all. I understand that. But we have got to move on. Now, let me ask you this. As a clinician, as a physician, as somebody who knows a little bit about addiction and the like, is there anything you can say about how certain aspects of certain strata of society are affected differently based upon culture, mores, traditions, familial units, drug abuse, criminality? Can you do that? No. I don't care what you say. No, don't do that. But what if it's true? We don't want to hear that. No, but I can help you. Don't. See, that's the part. This is where we are. Because we've been like this. We step over. We can't talk about stuff. Look, I was a prosecutor. I saw things I couldn't believe. You want to talk about racism? When I first left the prosecutor's office, I went to the county jail to visit a client. I walked in and I said, what is this, the black jail? What is this? There wasn't a white person anywhere around. And I saw it. Now, what happened was my chance of getting bonded out is different than some black person's. Why? Well, you can point to different reasons, maybe because of a record. But if I saw a completely different thing. Now, why? We'll argue why later on. I've seen this. Let me tell you right now, if I could do something, I happen to believe that diet is one of the most important things that is just so overlooked in this country, it's not even funny. If I could do something to introduce fresh fruits and vegetables to the African-American community, people of color, poor, I could drop BMI by 10%.
The new mayor of New York is pushing that very hard. Eric Adams.
You know what
he
he
wants
is?
a plant-based diet.
Eric Adams, he says he's a vegan.
I like Eric Adams.
Eats fish. Eric Adams is so over his head, it's not even funny.
I'm not going to judge. Well,
I know, because you don't judge. You're Dr. Drew. I live here. I'm telling you about this stuff.
Judge not.
Well, let's talk about your guys. Let's talk about Gascon. Let's talk about this ridiculous, Soros-backed prosecutors. Let's talk about restorative justice. Look, do you want to get tough about this or not? Or we can be nice. We can talk about this. Eric Adams, and then he came out and said he was a vegan, but he eats fish. It's like, look, you brought this up. I didn't. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I remember the one thing I want to talk about, and we'll sort of wrap up with this, is that, you mentioned how, you lived through the summer of love and the 60s and the 70s and whatnot, and how you talked about young people today as having been, I used a word like trained. Where do you think the rebelliousness, the captivity, you said. Rebelliousness was sort of a value in Neil Young's day, for instance. And why do you think, but he was part of that era. And it seems like, if you think about our era being, if we were teenagers today, we would be going nuts, rebelling against things.
Let me tell you something.
It would be going nuts.
I don't know about you, but I had the greatest childhood. I had a pellet gun. I had a wrist rocket. Our favorite game is called Jumping Off the Roof. I had a wood burning set. My mother and father gave me, I think it was 8, a wood burning set, basically a welding iron, 800 degree. Yeah. I used to burn wood. Nobody got hurt. Nobody broke their neck. Nobody lost an eye. It was fun. We drank out of a hose. We were out. It was great. We didn't wear 90 helmets. It was just fun. And there was a sense of fearlessness. Yeah. And I tell you what we also could do. We looked adults in the eye. We could shake hands. We could sign our name. We knew where the hell we were. Have you ever talked to kids today? I know I sound like the kids today with their long hair.
Well, that's
I
a
sound
lot of
like
what
an
we're
old-
that's a lot of what we're doing
But it's
here.
true.
But go ahead, keep
But it's
going.
true.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to somebody right now? Have you ever talked to somebody, some mush-mouthed kid who looks at you? It's like, look at me, no
Well,
eye contact. Maybe it's the psych meds that your profession loaded these kids up with, from everything from bedwetting, enuresis to you name it. They're just, it's this. When I was 16 years old, I watched the clock. The first thing I did was get a license. I got to get out of here. Kids today.
Oh, I
it's
know.
another
It's so weird.
world.
I have three
agree.
29-year-olds living with me.
Yeah, and well, Susan, speaking of
Three
running
29s?
wild, she told. Yeah,
Yes.
we have triplets. Talking about how
Why
she
did you
was.
say you
Her
had
parents
triplets?
gave her.
Wait a minute, Drew. Hold it. I would say I've
Yeah.
got triplets who are 29. Not. It sounds like they're
Yeah.
random. These three 29-year-olds.
How'd you? It's like the prosecutor's listening carefully to what you're saying. She was given a bow and arrow set, or there was a bow and arrow set in the house, or you were given it.
Yeah, no, it was
Bow
just
and arrow
sitting
set in
around.
the house, and
Good
she
for
was
you.
how old? 3, running with an arrow in her mouth, and fell
Yes.
down. That
And I lived
that
to
is-
tell the story.
That is
One of my favorite-
wife, ladies and gentlemen.
One of my favorite. Look at this. Three. Listen. I stop for 1 second.
Yeah.
I'd love to do
Yeah.
some Freudian profiles of that. Your triplets in this household with these people.
What do you?
Oh yeah.
Who was the dominant? Who was the dominant of the troika, the triad, the triumvirate? Who are they? Talk about that.
Yeah.
I mean, twins are, but triplets are
It
like.
changes. It changes. It morphs. It moves. It changes.
Do
It's a
you not
triangle.
believe?
The
Are they different? Are they
Yeah.
fraternal?
profoundly
maternal?
fraternal and
Fraternal.
profoundly different. And there's 2 boys and a girl.
And then you get the epigenetic thrown in there. See, I have this thing about, I believe that it is nature, but nurture. It's like you're born a slab of marble versus balsa versus styrofoam. But what happens to that marble is a whole nother story. That fascinates
Yeah.
me.
Or they will talk about dandelions versus orchids in terms of our genetic constitutional makeup. But I want to make one quick comment about what you said about the kids today. And it's not just the kids, it's our society generally. Safety uber alles.
And I sound old?
Safety uber alles. Well, all of us. This society has taken thriving and pushed it
Yes.
down as a priority and moved safety up as the ultimate priority of living. Safety uber
what
alles.
happens?
That is no
And what
way to
happens-
live. That is no way to live.
And COVID reached in. COVID is
Yep.
is what to our sense of dementia or demented thinking, what meth did for drug abuse. It made people, and I told you this before, COVID is a religion. The vaccine is the sacrament. The mask is the vestment. Fauci is the Pope, and the CDC is the Vatican. There are people who said they've been walking around their whole lives saying, I don't know about anything, but I know this. I can go on Facebook and all of a sudden, look at me. I got my shot. Do you know that I told people with a straight face, and when you get to this age, you can say stuff and people will believe you. I said, I got the rabies vaccine. I went down and looked at the veterinary list, parvovirus, rabies, distemper. I told people I got that. They said, rabies. I said, better believe it. Can I get that? I said, well, I got the booster. I got the rabies booster. Remember when anal swabs, when China was mentioning anal swabs? Don't tell me you didn't hear
Yeah.
this, please.
I
Just
remember that.
Google
I do.
this.
I do. No, I
I
remember.
told people with a straight face, I said, they've got a place up in Nyack. You drive through. It's a drive-through anal swab. It's a little tough. If you got a smaller car, it's tough. But they say it's the best way possible because buccal cells do not have the same concentration as cloacal. and I'm making this stuff up. And they said, really? I said, it's not fun. Okay, but it works. I never understood how we can lead people along. And let me just, Gustave Le Bon is one of my favorites. This is about crowd theory. I love to watch murmurations of starlings and fish, and that's who we've become, a clockeracy. We're just mindless. Just we've lost our minds.
Yeah.
And my favorite is
it's funny
people-
you say that. Yeah. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
anybody who drives a car alone, anybody who drives a car, listen to me.
With a mask.
Drives a car alone with a mask. you should have the police pull you over, immediately put something over you, knock you out, and do immediate brain surgery to find out what is it that caused this person to misunderstand the rudiments of nature and common sense to wear a mask by themselves in a car. This is when I realized.
I forget to take it off.
I sometimes you forget. That's right. But I feel the same way with people outdoors wearing the mask. It's the same phenomenon. But back to Gustave Le Bon. It's funny you bring him up. When all the craziness started about a year ago, I immediately pulled out Le Bon, Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. Dahlia, is that his name, has a new book about cycles and crazes. This is the madness of crowds we are in. This is the thing the founding fathers feared the most, which was mobs.
One of the things that I thought was, and people will be looking, I always imagine if I could meet someone from another planet, another star system, another biological entity, I would say, I want to show you something. I want to show you, by the way, good production work. Hats off to your group. Look at this. They got the picture. They put it up. Unbelievable.
There it is.
But I want to show people.
You said streaming is the future. Here it is.
What I realized changed everything was when people went from sleeve tattoos to neck tattoos. This was the end of civilization as we know it. This is when I thought to myself, no, there is nothing worse. There's, to me, when somebody walks up to you and they have an arm with born to lose or only God will judge. And I'm thinking to myself, this is it. Now, a couple of things here. You must remember, first and foremost, people have been following, one of my other, I guess, passions is what makes serial killers serial killers. How did the Holocaust occur? How do you transform people? It's the Milgram experiment. It's the Stanford prison experiment. Yeah. It's how do you take people? How do I take, by the way, if you ever see a 70-year-old man with an arm full of tattoos, he's an escapee. Do not mess with that man. Somebody 20 years old, and it's been said before, his name is Todd, he's at a barista, whatever it is. But how is it that somebody said, I'm going to spend thousands of dollars to permanently scar my skin so that when I get old and the skin elasticity changes and it looks like a big bruise, like I've been through some industrial fire, I'm going to be stuck with this because I have so little sense of self that I will do anything to be a part of this, up to and including scarring my body permanently. Now, I want to do the...
So, Lionel,
I mean, he's kind of got a point.
Well, no, the answer is you wait until you're 65 and you have all the actinic changes and the laxity.
Drew wants to do it now.
Then you sleeve tattoo and you make sure you do things that look good as it continues to slide. So I'm thinking, because I've got all these, I was a lifeguard, I've got actinic changes all over my forearm. I need sleeves now. I want a peacock on my arm.
But he does have a
look
point.
Better.
He does have a point. Like, I remember Ricky Rackman had a picture of his girlfriend or his fiance on his back, and I said, "What happens when he gets old and his back starts like draping?
Laxity.
Her face is going to be all old and wrinkly." And
well, it's funny. Michael Baden, the forensic pathologist, wrote one time that in prisons they will have a certain Madonna figure at the base of one's back to prevent prison rape, and also. There was a story about somebody who had your name, YOURNAME, tattooed on his penis. Right.
Yes.
And he would win
bets.
drinks and stuff. I bet you I've got and I did something years ago where I had Massachusetts Institute of Technology, but it's an old joke and I don't want to go into that right now.
We won't be like
six
people
kind of
are
getting that.
We got it. Well,
I don't want to wrap it
again,
up now.
Susan,
I'm not done yet.
Very enlightening.
You're not done? All right. What do you go?
I have to go. I have an appointment, but Drew can keep going.
All right. You want to go on a little bit? Lionel's on a bit of a roll. He scares me when he's on a roll.
I like it, though. I like it. But, I mean, I'm open to this. I know it's probably offending a few people on our restream, but they're kind of having fun with it over there, and I get it. I mean, I'm old. I always tell my kids, I have a right to offend people because I'm old. Okay, so just forget with the
Susan, are you old
in the text?
Susan,
I'm
are you
your
really
age.
old?
I am.
She's 59.
I mean,
we're 58.
I'm not old, but but for this generation, I'm the
only doctor here. And
I'm
I can
oldest.
make that assessment for all you guys.
I'm
a Juris doctor.
I'm the oldest person in my family. But no, I
what-
get it, and I love that. I love that you're able to speak your mind, because we all are so careful, and I sometimes slip and I say what I feel, and I
God
get a lot of
forbid.
shit for it. Oh yeah.
Listen, Susan,
Oh, yeah.
let me ask you a question. Susan, would you be 20 years old right now if you could? 20 years old. Not
No.
knowing what you know now,
20?
but be 20 years old. Would
Back
you?
to 20.
No,
Yeah.
No way.
no, I'd like to have that body back, though. That was a pretty rocking body.
No, you're fine. It's fine. It's all good. It's all good.
I can't imagine. You see, what you do is you do what I do. You spend most of your life being sedentary. You don't do anything athletic. You do nothing that involves motion, athleticism, so that when you get older, while your friends say, I can't play golf anymore, you don't recognize anything because basically you've never done anything your whole life. So I feel terrific. I feel like I'm on fire now. I've never been
I
better,
feel great.
smarter, wiser. I've got people listen to me. They look at me and they say, this guy must know something. When in fact, not really. I'm more curious than I've ever been. I'm more tolerant. That's the funny part. I come across as being intolerant. No, because I'm telling you, no, I tolerate you. Say what you want. It's okay. I don't want
I
anybody
agree.
not to do anything. If you want to mar your skin permanently, fine. I don't care. But expand yourself, understand, and recognize that it's okay. Not everything makes sense, and not everything is cool, and not everything that is socially bumper sticker worthy is laudable in the long run. Be able to discern. That's all I'm saying. Right, Drew?
Well, and yeah, but that was where you opened, but you opened your comments with this, which is you've seen an historical arc. And that is something that through most of human history, people will look towards the population to seen history play out and ask, what are we doing wrong? What can we learn from history? How have you seen things evolve? We've got the opposite going on now, where people have said,
yes.
no, you know nothing. We've figured it all out, and it's all different now. Forget it. Whatever you've learned. And I remember that kind of stuff in the 70s too. There was that same kind of ethos going on then.
You just said something which is and thank you for saying this. You said an historical, not ahistorical. Good for you. You're one of 3 people who can do this in the world. Oh, that's very, very good. And listen, one of the things you have done, and I am such a fan, and what addiction, what I got out of this thing from watching you and your stories about this? It is as close to black magic and witchcraft to think that something that is seemingly innocuous, just a liquid that, I can give it to one person, no big deal. But for me, something happens. And when you see this and how lives are destroyed and how people, and it's legal. And put it this way, I'm in the prosecution business. I put more people in jail for DUI. Think about this. We have this law against drinking and driving, but we have parking lots at bars. In fact, you have to have a parking lot for zoning. We have a place where people get drunk, and then we say, last call, and we send them out into the night. We tell people, tastes great, less filling. I've seen lives destroyed by this thing. We tried to ban it once, didn't work. So what's the secret? And now there are drugs now which make that look like nothing. Let me tell you something. The new marijuana, this new skunk, this isn't the stuff that we knew in the 70s, my friend.
Nope.
I don't know what this is.
Nope.
But this is you're going to see a bunch of mush-mouthed, semi-literates. It should not be against the law. You should be free to do that. But this is serious business. And it's one thing I've learned about being a little bit older. Maybe Susan, she's probably gone to her appointment now. But how much does
I'm about to, but I can't leave.
She can't leave. You've captured her imagination.
How much does remembering a birthday mean to you, or a joke? When you see people, if you've ever seen a loved one really lose it, and I don't like making fun of Joe Biden. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No,
I think it's rude. I think that's because the man is seriously, he's dotard, he's a dotard, he's a hobbled by decrepitude, and it's sad. I don't want to not that he's old. I know a man who's 101 who runs rings around him. There's something wrong with him. But I don't want to do anything that affects my ability. And by the way, if I had a kid right now playing football, I'd say, don't even think about it. Little girls getting headers.
Yeah, I know.
This is a very beautiful thing. And you've taught me this. Look at the people, Drew, you've talked to. These people had more talent. They had more money.
Yeah.
They had everything going for them. And what brought them down? Liquid. A liquid.
Yeah.
That is,
or
worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Or a volatilized liquid or a liquid injected. It's the brain is an extraordinary, the reason I like working in addiction, well, many reasons, but one is the genetic potential for it. Those people tend to be very rich human beings, very intelligent, very creative. And when they recover, it's phenomenal. It's just amazing. And it's a disease that takes good people from us. Number one, makes them do bad things when they're in the disease, but these are good people. Number one. And number two, you get to see all the other higher mechanisms of the brain struggling with serving a false god. So the usual motivational state of the brain is survive. The addict's motivational state is use. And all the thinking, all the feelings, all the judgments are under the influence, without them being aware of it, of this distorted motivation. So all their thinking becomes what we call stinking. It becomes distorted, problematic. They have good logic. Their logic is perfect. But where they're being driven with their logic is to terrible places.
You mentioned before something which I find fascinating, that of psychopathy. Psychopathy is one of my, I love, because you don't understand what normal is until you understand what abnormal is. You don't understand.
Right. That's true.
The head-heart connection. I don't know if you've ever heard James Fallon speak and other people speak, and the hair.
I know James, and I've interviewed him, I think, on this streaming show a couple times. But his story, I caught his story years ago, and I thought, oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
But here's the thing, though. When you ask, we are seeing right now a conditioned form of sociopathy that's conditioned. And what's happening is we're teaching a detachment between the head and the heart. One of the great experiments I love is when they will put a true psychopath and they will put they'll say, we have this little device on your finger. And at the count of 10, we're going to give you a mild electric shock. And they look at their imagery, and for everybody else, everything's going crazy.
Anxiety, right. Anxiety comes up.
But yet we can take this person who is a psychopath and he'll say, oh my God, Drew's hurt. He's on the field. I'll get him. And they say, what are you, nuts? Now he's a hero. But then again, he can't play chess because he can't appreciate consequence, but he'll do things that we love. So life is a balance. There's a little bit of sociopathy that we got to have. We have to be able to look at sometimes and just say, you know what?
They're not everything that's pathological in the human brain is strictly pathological. Every liability comes with a certain number of assets. Alcoholism and addiction comes with the capacity to survive in adversity. They are survivors, man.
Let me ask you this question.
They are sort of turned on by, Go ahead.
Let me ask this question. You cannot make the brain do something it was never intended to do. For example, I can eat all the sweet and low I want, and I will not get a high or whatever it is. So that means there's a neuroreceptor, something, maybe God or nature at least said, there's a reason for this. There's a reason why ethyl alcohol does something, and why? Why is this an overextended, overplayed instinct that we had? Yeah. There must be a reason for why the brain does this. Is it dopamine gone nuts?
Well, if you're a biologist, you always think evolutionarily, right? And so, what would the evolutionary process be? Well, they have a tendency to be sort of, so to speak, turned on or at their best and the least anxious in extra physiological rewarding circumstances. So things that activate what's called the ventral tegmental input into the shell of the nucleus accumbens, which is the medial forebrain bundle, that shell. When we looked intracytoplasmically at the cells in the shell of the nucleus accumbens, they have second messengers, something called Krebs, cyclic AMP response element binding protein, that becomes activated in ways that isn't activated in normal cells and is changing the genetic machinery of the cells in the shell of the nucleus accumbens if that's happened over prolonged periods of time. But the reason it was there in the first place was to say, that's good. Do that again. Do that again. That was good. Excellent. And so what essentially it's made them more rewarded by and feel better by extreme circumstances. I would do an experiment every week. I'd give lectures to large groups of alcoholics and addicts, and I would always do the same thing every week. I go, what would happen if a bunch of Huns with spears came over, ran into the parking lot here? And you know what the alcoholics say? They go, I pick up something, I go get them. I go charge at them. I fight. That's not a normal reaction. I would run the other way, and evidently in repeated episodes of military assault, I would be more likely to get a spear in the back than the alcoholic would be likely to survive in the battle. And so if you look at isolated populations that have been repeatedly assaulted militarily, you see alcoholism emerge. Lots of it. Northern England, Scotland, North American Indians, certain parts of Central Europe, when there's been multiple generations of military genocidal assaults, you see alcoholism emerge. And that's because they were the survivors. They survived better, and they're turned on by all this. They make great fighter pilots, great shortstops, great extreme athletes. They do excel in those areas. Would make a great what?
You would make a great sommelier. You could say, for example, this is our Auschwitz. What this does is this goes into the cortical accumbens. This basically will activate that proto-sexual display, and you'll be on the floor barking like a dog because of your hypersexualized sensate dimensional disc. It'd be wonderful. And of course, I'm sure your wife and your kids are saying, "Would you knock that off?
Would you shut up? Yes, enough already.
Have a drink."
Well, we will leave it at that. It's been a really fun to talk to you, and I thought we were going to talk about media and media analysis and future of media, but we went all over the place. And the only thing we didn't get into was the Ukrainian genocide and Holodomor, which I thought about that, but now we'll leave that for another day.
If you
want to see more Lionel, my family ran away from it. Oh, the current thing now. The current thing, yes. Something goofy is going on now. LionelMedia.com. In fact, this is going to sound crazy, but if there's those of you that are fans of 90 Day Fiancé, some of those women are Ukrainian, and I want to get one of them on this show and interview them about what's going on with their families, what they're actually thinking in the Ukraine. LionelMedia.com, at LionelMedia on Twitter. Caleb, thanks for producing this and impressing Lionel with your skills. That was a nice,
very impressive,
nice feature.
Extremely.
Yes, I figured. Susan, thanks for the work today. And we will see you all. Am I getting this right, Caleb? Were we next on Tuesday?
I believe so. I don't think we're doing a show on Monday. I'm not sure.
I think it's Tuesday next up. All right, we're not sure. Monday or Tuesday.
Makes the big bucks.
We will see you
has
then.
No idea. Is it Tuesday?
I show up when the time is.
Like you said, it's streaming. It's streaming. It's reality.
Can talk about the incumbents, but it's like, I don't know. I gotta write this down. I don't know.
All right, you guys.
But that's why
we're going to leave it at that but I appreciate it. And
but talented.
A little bit enfeebled. Yeah, you said we weren't old, but I would argue otherwise.
Well,
all right, we'll see. Thank you, Lionel, and we'll see everybody next week.
Indeed.
Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended